Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Channeling Erik Part 2. We're on here for River Phoenix. We did Part 1 with the beautiful Denise Ramon, all of her information in the box below, and also the beautiful Michelle Gray. Yes,
Yes.
I'm being compassionate towards myself, and all of my information is in the box below. And so, if you haven't seen Part 1, you can hear River Phoenix's bio, hear about him if you don't know who he is. And we really got into some heart and compassion and conversation in the first one. So check that out. But we're here to continue on. Hello, Erik and River. Thank you for continuing this conversation with us. And I guess we'll get right into it.
Yes, Eric and I feel River and Eric both are like very excited. They're
Yes.
like, okay, let's go. And so one of the questions from the community is Stand By Me touched millions.
Mm,
What are your memories of filming it? And what do you think of your character, Chris Chambers?
mm. Um, he says that that movie was so good because it was real, meaning the bonds of the friendships with the boys. Um, he's saying he's going like the age-old story of growing
Mm,
up. And he says he could identify with Chris, that the depth. He could identify with that character, but he says we were all friends. And he said that it was really no different on screen than it was off screen. So there was a real, and there's a point to be made from that because he says that is authenticity. That is when you watch something or you're involved in something that you feel it. It feels good. You're right in the story. There's authenticity flowing through it. And he says, we're a group of boys and we were right into that story, but even off the set, he goes, we were still that group of boys.
I got that there was a bond there. It
Yes.
wasn't, that's what made this movie so great was the
Yes.
chemistry, the bond, because it was authentic.
Yes.
Yeah. So the emotional depth that you brought to Chris felt beyond years. Where did that come from?
Well, he says naturally he was very deep. Naturally, he felt he was very sensitive. He could feel into other people, but he also was able to really protect his sensitivity in the sense that he knew what it was like to hold things back. So, where did that come from? He says, well, my own interactions with life.
Yeah.
He goes, I knew what that felt like. I knew what that holding back and that being strong for everybody else, that being the voice that says, hey, I got this taken care of. You're okay. It's okay for you to just crawl in under my wing, in my shoulder. He says, I've been that. I knew that, understood that. He says that was part of me. Chris was part of me.
I also get that some of your lines and others in the movie, which, and I can't remember the movie, but I get some of them were like ad lib, like you kind of went off script and
Yes.
interjected some of your own words in there. Um, and Eric is saying he says some of that was done so because this was the authentic all of you coming out into the show, into the film.
Yes. That's exactly right. It was a really good one, and I'll just say that is a very memorable movie for me because I really felt that one too.
And he so did you know when you were filming Stand By Me that it would become such a timeless classic?
No, no, he says not at all. He says it he goes, the thoughts weren't there like that. We were just having fun. We were having fun. He says, I felt moments of like, this is really cool. This is
Yeah.
really cool that I get to do this. And he goes like, that was the gift. This is really cool.
Because Eric and him both are saying, we didn't think that far ahead. We were just, Eric is, because I feel like Eric was in the movie with them in some ways, the way how he's showing me. Um, so what was it like working with Keanu Reeves on My Own Private Idaho? And what was your friendship like off camera? Because I feel like their energy as a person is very similar or was very
Yes.
similar.
Yes, he says that he's showing me like the, the secret handshakes. Like when you do it, that's what he's showing me, like a secret handshake, like somebody that he could really trusted.
Mm.
He's saying brothered, like brotherhood, bonded. Um he says that his experience with him uh was like, he's a good dude. He's deep and he's very sensitive. He says he feels, um he actually visits him quite a bit. He sees him quite a bit. um he says he pops in and out checking on him, but he says that that particular movie was very moving for him. It was very moving, and he says that he had a relationship with Keanu outside of that, um, because he's showing me that there are things that they did together, and there must have been music or something that they did together, maybe as well. And he's showing me that there's a few others that may have hung out with them too. He just says all around a really good guy. Um, he says that when you want to talk about sensitive and really putting yourself into a role, that's a man that does that, that takes his art seriously.
Nice. So what I get, River, is that when you're picking a role as carefully as you did with all of your roles, because I don't feel like you just said yes to anything. Um, but I feel like the roles that you did select to do, on some level, though, these characters you were also working through in your off the screen life, working on healing or completing or making full circle with these
Mhm.
emotions or parts of you. So, with that being said, did portraying Mike in My Own Private Idaho change how you saw love, loneliness, or identity in any kind of way?
He says he likes how you put that together. He likes how you see that, because he said that's very perceptive of you to pick up on that, because he said that that wasn't something that he was doing with intention, but he would get so deep into the character, and so the character with Mike, there was a release to that.
Uh,
He says, so in what you've picked up on, he says, Denise, yes. He says, it allowed me to play into a part that didn't have the same consequences.
I like that.
And he says, and that could be very relieving for me. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
he
like you
says
didn't
it
have to
did.
go to yeah, like you didn't have to go to prison if you portrayed a certain role or
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you were known for your depth and your authenticity as an actor.
Mhm.
Where did that come from? And I feel like we touched on that quite a bit in part one, but let's go ahead and tap into a little bit more about it in this part.
Like he says, he came into this world with that depth. He says that was, he goes, this is the soul. He says the experiences that brought me into this world with everything that I had. And he says, but my early years, my formative years, the experiences that I had, he goes, helped me see the world from a perspective that not everybody gets to see. And he says, and that really, it helped me look at the things that were important that I felt like others were missing.
Yeah. So, what was your experience working in Hollywood as a young person?
The first thing he just showed me was like, he showed me a lamb being thrown to the wolves, is the visual that he gave me. And he says there was never enough. Yes, he says, of course, we knew it's an industry.
Yeah.
You can't hide the fact that there is a money machine at play. He says, we all see it. We all participate in it in one way or another. But he says, as a young man, he says, it is not a world for a child to navigate without very clear boundaries of guidance and care. And he's very clear about the fact that children in Hollywood, yes, there is a place, but the Hollywood that he stepped into
Mhm.
is part of the Hollywood that is more into money and production than into artistry. And he says he was, he's saying like the theater, like he was, that was where it was the performance, the theater, and that got lost. So throwing a child into that, he says, you could be blinded very easily. And when you realize that the wool had been pulled over your eyes, it can be much too late.
Yeah, he shows me dangling carrots, and the carrots are, the sparkle, the glitter, and the dollars.
Yes.
And because we attach to that because that's what we see as our worth
Mm-hmm,
on some levels for
mm-hmm,
some of us.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow. So, you had a band, um, and so you are deeply connected to music. How did that feed your soul?
Oh, he says right away, he says that medicine is medicine, pure medicine, always. And he just shows, I learned how to play a beat. And he's like tapping fingers. And he says, and strum and sing and move. He says that music is what kept him alive. It's what kept him going.
Then that rolls into my next question because it says, were you able to connect to your spiritual self through your creative work, which obviously he was able to through his music.
Very much so. He says, I didn't, he goes, let's just put the language aside. I didn't always use the language. Like he says, the labels, but I felt it. I felt the connection. I felt the medicine. I knew that I was connecting into something that was real, that moved me.
Yeah, and I think like the reason why, it's Eric is showing me and what I feel from River is it's like, you know, you're you're multiplying numbers all the time, but you're not realizing that you're multiplying numbers when you're young until somebody points it out. Well, you're doing multiplications or you're doing division or whatever. So he was doing this work of staying connected and feeling the energies and doing all of that. It was just in his upbringing and his DNA is what he was doing. So he didn't label it as, oh, I'm connecting to Mother Earth, or I'm, he just,
Right.
it's just part of the, like he says, brushing your teeth. You just
Yes.
do this,
Yes.
you don't dive into why you're brushing your teeth. This is
Yes.
just how you do things. And he goes, this is how things just flow, is what he says.
He's showing me, we were having a conversation, Denise, you and I, and he was just showing the example of things that what you just said that we do as a child. And he was saying, not realizing you're speaking to spirits,
Yeah.
not realizing that you're conversing with the universe all the time until it gets pointed out and shown, like, wait a minute here, what have you been doing? And he says, yeah, he goes, that's it for a lot of us. He goes, a lot of humans are running around looking for, what's my mission, what am I here to do? And he goes, chances are you've been doing it your whole life.
Yeah. But because it's not colored blue, we think that we're not doing it. And all along it's been colored yellow.
Yeah, he says we're the ones that have to put the spotlight on it,
Yeah.
not something from outside of us. We have to
Yeah.
put the spotlight on it.
Yeah. So how did River, how did your spiritual beliefs change with after you crossed over? Did they change at all? Did anything shift?
Well, he says, like, the what really changed was, he says, more of the group mentality in a way that is like, you have to be this way, you have to do this way. It's, he says, more of that dogma, more of that. He says he was never really into that in that way, but he had been raised around it, like he had seen that. And he says that his connection came in everything, but part of the, and as he's showing, like, the harps and all of that, he goes, that's what changed. He says,
Okay.
I always knew, he says, that we were the spirit here. He's saying he knew that, he felt that. And again, he says the language may not have been there, but I knew it. So crossing over, he says, it was very apparent to me that it was, he says, looking, feeling, sounding, smelling a little different than what I expected. But he says all of those things, the descriptions of how and what the afterlife is like, he says, what I want to tell each and every one of you is that it's not just one thing. Because what really surprised me was that my experience was maybe not the experience of the next guy beside me. That's what gave me a little bit of a surprise, is it's not a once and done, here's your ticket.
Very good. Very good. So, do you feel like your passing had a higher purpose for those that you left behind? I would say yes, just given my own experience from some of my own family members, that there was a bigger purpose that wasn't seen right away. It was later, and we could see, or I could see, that behind the scenes it had a much bigger purpose than just you passing away at such a young age. Eric says it has more of a punch when someone passes at a young age, because he's saying when there's a difference in passing at 23 as opposed to 73, the impact is, the punch isn't there. and
Yes.
and there's a purpose behind the transition time to give, they're using the word punch, but what do you feel, River, if anything? I'm sure you do, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's coming from, he's right in line with what you're saying, because he says, in to keep things in conversation with what we were speaking of with Hollywood, he says there was a big drive home to what are we doing with these kids? And he's putting that right out like it's an after school special, like
Yeah.
a, like a warning, like what about these kids? And he says conversations had already started before his passing. There were conversations, and so his passing put a very abrupt demarcation of putting attention to what is going on, who's slipping through the cracks, and why. And he says it also had a lot to do with things that the wider world wouldn't see. And he says, through my own family, um, he's again using the ripple effect. He says, no passing is meaningless, no birth is meaningless,
Right.
no breath is meaningless. He says there is purpose to everything. When we are here in the body, we have the ability to give purpose. We have the ability to
Mm,
be purpose. And he says, and when we exit this world, that purpose that we have exhibited in our actions, in our compassion, he says, we leave that trace. And it is up to all those that are physical to then bring meaning to that. So he says it's an ongoing. He says everybody says, will it end? When do we get here? But he says this is an ongoing process. And he says, and there is great purpose to my passing as much as there's great purpose to this conversation today.
I see so many sparkles. I do. It's just like as you were talking, just so many sparkles. I wish I could take a picture
Yeah.
from inside here to put out here so people could see because it's just the sparkles. It's just the
Yeah.
the goodness of it. And one of the questions, River, is someone asked, have you learned about what have you learned from your addiction, your creativity, and your sensitivity now that you're from a higher perspective? But I would like to turn that around a little bit. How do you feel like your sensitivity, your creativity, um, and just your your authentic self being able to feel and feel so connected, how do you how would you say that in a sense led you to addiction? And when I say that, because um, I would think that you are vibrating at a higher rate, not that you're way up here and everybody is down here. It's not that, it's just that you're feeling more. So how would you say the addiction played a role into that part?
He says, really good question. And he really likes that you have flipped it around a bit to look at it differently because he says, you're right. He says, and I want to speak of myself and have all those listening that are also highly sensitive to understand that we do come in with a more expanded vibration. He says our senses are already in an expansion.
Mhm.
That's the way we're built, he says. And so we become aware very quickly that the world around us and many other individuals around us are not built that way. And he says, by design, it's by design. And he says, so what happens for many of us? And he says, and in my situation, he says, the more we work through the world, the more that we navigate, what happens is that sensitivity that we're so naturally guided by becomes, he says, clouded, maybe a little bit staticky, or he says a little bit heavy, but we're continuously always looking to nurture that authenticity and nature in us. So he says, how addiction came into anything, he goes, was really by the drive within me of my soul looking for alignment. I was always looking to meet that sensitivity because that's where everything felt like home. So for many of us that are so sensitive, he says, remember this, addiction is not the failure. Addiction is not something that you are broken and that you have fallen into this because you are broken. He says, what if you are highly sensitive and you've been navigating in a world that is compressing you? And he says, and many of us just want to exist. So we do what we need to do to survive.
Yeah.
And you and I both understand this. It is very difficult to navigate when the rest of the world that maybe aren't existing this way get up and do things like it's natural in nature and
Yeah.
quick and go. And the sensitivity is like, I feel everything, I see everything, I hear everything, and I'm involved in everything. And he says, he's like, and like, you can't pull yourself out of it. You just can't turn it off.
Right.
He goes, and that's the important part to understand. He goes, here's the big thing of why this is so important, Denise, and why you brought this up is because we have to begin at the core to understand that those that have come in sensitive are here to help dig into the depth of sensitivity for everyone else, not make the sensitive people adjust to those that want to push it aside.
Right. Right.
So, what if the sensitive all along were medicating themselves just to survive?
Exactly. Exactly. And that was why it was a survival tool for
Yeah.
however long. I know it was for me. It was a
Voice for
survival
me
tool.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It saved my life until it turned against me.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yes.
so with that being said, what's some advice or one thing that you would give to people who are sensitive, artistic souls navigating through fame and pressure today? And not just navigating through fame. I think fame is so many different levels. We have fame on, it can be in Hollywood, yes. It can be in the music industry. It's can be in your own house. So what's the one thing that you would give? Or 2, however many you have.
He says, slow yourself down. He goes, like, really, he says, slow yourself down and really take stock of exactly where you are, how you feel. How does it feel in your body, what you're doing?
Yeah,
Because he says, when you're on this path, and he says things can get real fast and exciting quick. And he says, if you're not fully in your body, you're not necessarily going to make decisions that align with the truth of you. You may be starting to make decisions that align with the you that loves the glitter or the you that can't wait to get on a stage. He says, so slow it down because what's meant for you, what's there for you, will be there for you. It's not going to run away. And he says, and remember, fame is being strung out and hung out on the clothing line for the world to see right now. And
yeah,
he says, and we're seeing it blow in the wind. We're seeing some dirty laundry. We're seeing some things on that line that maybe need to be thrown back in and rewashed. But the
yeah.
thing is, he says, slow yourself down and really feel your decisions. Because when you do that, he says, your discernment strengthens. And with your
Mm,
discernment, you can't go wrong because you know what feels right and what doesn't, no matter how fast it starts coming at you.
that's beautiful. So I have one last question and then we'll close. If you could leave one message for humanity right now, that's a big punch, I know, a big loaded question. What would it be?
So he says, I'm going to give you something a little different than I think you've heard before. And Eric's like, I like different.
Yeah.
He says, keep your circle. Not, he goes, and I'm not talking about necessarily all those that you're born into your life, or keeping people around you out of loyalty because you feel bad, but your circle, your people, the people that are close to your heart, those that you can be authentic with, even if there's one
Mhm.
person. But that authenticity in yourself is what will take you through the world to help you explore and attract the things that will really give you fulfillment. But keep your circle tight. And he says, and if that circle is only you right now, that's okay. He says, because there's a lot of the unseen that are supporting you, that are part of your circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he says, if I could leave you with anything, don't discount what you can't see.
Mm.
Because just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there holding you up.
Right. Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, River, I want to thank you for coming in. And Erik, thank you. We couldn't do this without you as well. Michelle, thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise.
I appreciate it. And I want to thank all of you out there who listen to this. Thank you for being a part of Channeling Erik. Thank you for being a part of this. And I just want to say I wish all of you just the best. Big hugs to all of you. And until next time.
Until next time, Erik says, love you. And we love you too. Bye, guys.
Bye.